What's going on, guys? My name is Tony, and today I'll tell you everything you need to know before getting Indivisible. Spoiler free. Indivisible is an indie action role-playing platform game developed by Lab Zero and published by 505 Games. Released for PC, PS4, Xbox One, and later on for Nintendo Switch. Indivisible is the result of the vision of the guys who made the fighting game Skullgirls, supported by the public via Indiegogo, who raised over $2 million in their campaign, showing the public's faith in the studio and in the minds behind the game. Regardless of the outcome of this review, it's always good to see a crowdfunded indie game come to light in this way. So let's see, is Indivisible worth it? Here you follow the story of Ajna, a short-tempered teenager whose life is completely destroyed when her village is attacked and burned by an army under the command of the mysterious Ravanavar, saying that they have come to make the world a better place, where her father ends up being killed. And during the chaos, Ajna acquired the ability to absorb people into her mind. She then embarks on a journey to go around the world to face Ravanavar and avenge her father, while learning the truth behind her mysterious powers. I played the game entirely on PC, including the main campaign and some side quests, and I can say that for the most part I had no problems with the game. It ran completely smooth, excluding one single moment at the end of the game, where it dropped a few weird frames, but it was fast and happened only once, so overall the game's performance was without a hiccup. At the beginning, you can run, jump on walls, crouch and slide on the floor. But as the game progresses, because here you have a hint of the Metroidvania genre, you acquire new skills that allow you to reach previously unreachable places and increase your arsenal of moves, such as clinging to the walls with your axe so you can jump even higher. This undoubtedly makes the exploration cooler as the game goes, because while you gain access to new locations, you can also mix your new moves to get through complicated and older challenges more quickly. But I must say, although the maps do connect in a way, it doesn't have that sense of being one like most games in the Metroidvania category, making backtrack sometimes a bit tedious. You initially start only with Ajna, but throughout your journey you absorb several different people, increasing the number of partners you can have during combat with a maximum of 4 at a time, where you can mix them the way you think is more convenient, effective or fun. Each character will be associated with one of the buttons on your controller, in my case X, Y, A, B, and that's what you use to control them during combat. To start, each character will have only one action at a time, making combat slow but very simple, where your only way to make combos is to use one character after the other. But the more you progress in the game, you will unlock more actions, up to 5 per character, allowing you to make more complex combos with super varied results. Each character has their own action reload speed, and depending on the type of action you take, it will take longer to reload, so it's always good to plan your moves carefully, so as not to be left with all the team without actions for a very long time. As I said before, each character is associated with a button, but you don't have to, and more importantly, should not simply push the buttons without thinking. There are variations of attacks and actions, pressing up and attack or down and attack, which often completely change your character's functionality, sometimes attacking harder, sometimes healing the party, or even increasing the power of upcoming attacks. In addition, we also have specials, which can be activated when you have at least one full ED bar, holding RB plus the attack button assigned to the character you want to use. Apart from attacks, the game relies heavily on blocking mechanics. Blocking makes you take less damage overall, and if you block at the exact moment of impact, you decrease it even more and can even nullify the attack completely, sometimes generating other interesting effects. Some attacks can only be blocked this way, such as grabs. Indivisible is incredibly intense sometimes. I have never seen a similar combat system that combines RPG mechanics with fighting games before, making an interesting and at the same time frustrating mix. mostly because the game does not teach you many of the things you can do during combat and only gives access to a way of training after several hours of play. The enemies, for the most part, are quite varied and unique to each region you visit, but the fights are so repetitive and some enemies take so long to be defeated that I found myself avoiding several encounters towards the end of the game, simply because I did not want to have to face the same enemy again, and I must say, I didn't miss it at the end of the game. Ajna has levels, but I have no idea what they are for, since there is no statistics, and as I said, skipping a lot of fights did not hurt me during my experience with the game. Bosses are interesting and completely different from one another. They also mix normal combat with gameplay you use in exploration, where you have to use different techniques to pass each of them, making the combat more dynamic and fun, much more enjoyable than just fighting normal enemies, though I felt sometimes bosses can feel a little damaged sponges, more than I would like. It's a little weird to call this game a RPG, to tell you the truth, because beyond the lack of statistics about what each level represents, you also don't have any different equipment or progression you make in combat. Ajna receives some weapons during the game, but they are not equipment per se. They are more to change the way she uses her combos and especially to overcome challenges during the exploration phases. The lack of items does not bother during the game, but being sold as a RPG, the lack of these elements is quite remarkable. The only thing that really makes a difference in the game are the ring souls, the red gems you collect during exploration, which can improve your attack or defensive potential, but if you explore well, you will maximize both before the end of the game. Speaking of ring souls, most of them will be hidden after one of the platform challenges that the game throws at you. And I must say, I was not a fan of that choice. The game gives you the tools to conquer the challenges, of course, but many of the gems have to be so precise, and at least in my experience, the controls are not great, making you miss jumps and having to start over again more often than not. Sometimes even making you fall so far that doing the challenge becomes a chore, and I had to think carefully whether or not it was worth trying again. The game has almost no customization. The best you can do is change the color palette of the characters, which is something, but unfortunately, the art during the cutscenes does not change, making it a little weird to see Ajna's in the background as one color and another color when she appears to speak in the dialogues. Not a big deal, but definitely something that bothered me a lot. Each region you visit is very beautiful and well made, regions standing out from each other, never feeling samey. They give you a feeling of being unique with vibrant colors and stunning background details. The only thing I would like was a better fast travel system, because to go from one place to another to use the new skill you just picked up, it's pretty boring and backtracking can get pretty tiring. Speaking of tiring, every city is full of unimportant characters that I believe are part of the reward system of the crowdfunding, which is nice, but there are so many and most of them have dialogues that after a while it was pretty boring to get through. But you sort of need to do that, because some NPCs that can join your crew can get lost among the sea of these cardboard NPCs. All NPCs you recruit and absorb, whether for combat or other in-game functions, are brought into Ajna's inner mind, a place you can access at any time during exploration by holding B and then pressing up, where you can chat with these characters and access key parts like training and deliver the ring souls. The game focuses heavily on the main story, with very few side quests, which generally rewards you with a new lesser member to your team, but it's nice to do them, if only to have a new face on your roster. This story had an absurd potential, because it touches on some interesting themes, such as loss, self-knowledge, and empathy, but it clings a lot into cliches, and unfortunately, the story is very poorly written, and in my view, the main character is extremely unlikable. Her lack of empathy and brattiness sometimes bothered me. I understand she's a teenager, but even teenagers who grow up without anyone can behave better and deal better with others than her. Aside from the main character, most of the characters in the game are very charismatic. Incredibly, even the guy you're supposed to hate because he murdered Agnes' father can be more empathetic than the protagonist. My only problem with them is that, for the most part, their motivation to join in such a risky mission is very weak. But I don't complain much about that because I can bear anything, so I don't have to listen only to Agnes during gameplay. None of the characters have a satisfying arc, not even the protagonist. She does not grow, she does not learn. The game simply decides to change a switch and now she's grown up. I did not buy it, making me roll my eyes every time someone commented on how much she changed, without ever blaming her for the huge mistakes she makes during their journey. The only character that has any kind of real growth in my eyes is Hazmi, the best character of the whole game. The game is full of dialogue, but much of it is so poorly written that after a while it was hard to pay attention to what they were talking about. And as the game tries the Metroidvania approach, it leaves you half open to exploring some areas before going to others, but sometimes the dialogue gets out of order if you complete X before doing Y, leaving the story a bit confusing if you don't get it right away that it's the game's mistake, not your memory crashing on you. In addition, the game throws you a curveball at one point using the "if you go there, there's no turning back" method that made me go back to every city and look for things I had not done, that the game kind of implies that I did not. And after all, it wasn't quite like that. It was a low blow and made me slightly annoyed. Artistically, the game is impeccable. The characters are extremely well drawn, both in the cutscenes and the sprites within the game, with fluid animations and extremely well done moves. It's undoubtedly an awesome looking game. The game's art team has done a great job and I hope to see a lot more from them going forward. Visually, the game made me fall in love. The same can be said about the maps, very beautiful, different from one another, with background and surface details that really sell whatever biome you are in. One thing though I thought was missing, since the game has no real customization whatsoever, it was changing Agnes' clothes. Depending on where she went, it's kind of hard to swallow a short skirt on a snowy mountain. But this is nitpicking. The soundtrack is sensational. The boss's music, the different melodies that play in each location you visit, all very good and in my experience do not get boring at all. Some of them got stuck in my head for several hours after I stopped playing. The voices are extremely well performed, with all the main characters having very unique voices and mannerisms that complement their visual design. But it's worth remembering that unfortunately not all dialogues are performed, some being just texts themselves. These are usually unimportant NPCs, but sometimes some of the main cast also don't have voiced lines. The skills and combat sounds are also very well made, but it was the least I expected from the team with an awesome fighting game background as theirs. Nothing out of place, everything works. I really wanted to enjoy this game more, I really did. You can see that it's a game made with love and it is a passion project. And it has everything I like: female lead character, good music, and in theory is an RPG my favorite genre, so not giving a huge recommendation for this game makes me feel a little sad, but I have to be honest. The game is not bad at all, but for the price it's asking on Steam, it is too much for what it delivers. I think the game is a great prototype for some future projects, but what we have here today has a small taste of it being incomplete. The game tries their hands-off approach, which is not bad, but they left so much unexplained that many basic things you don't even know exist in the game. And unfortunately, the story is so weak that it does not cover the other faults. The game has a beautiful art, but the combat and exploration system leaves much to be desired. Good ideas, but less than good execution. Overall, I look forward to see their next projects, because with Skullgirls and Indivisible on their belt, I know their potential is amazing. And that's it, this is my review of Indivisible. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was useful to help you decide whether to play or not. So smash the like button because it helps the channel grow, subscribe for more reviews in the future, and in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.